Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the Rad Gaming Podcast. I'm Jimshi.
And I'm Pescador. And in this episode of the podcast, we interview Parris, the co-host of an award-winning podcast, GamerTag Radio. We discuss his techniques on interviewing high-ranking members of the video game scene, how he became a co-host on GamerTag Radio. He shares his story on how he snuck into a private video game party.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Cento. That's right, you guessed it. It's the lifestyle, it's the fashion brand that we all know and love. I mean, you better. Visit cento-fiore.com to join the family. cento-fiori.com. And also, the Rad Gaming Podcast is a part of Big Heads Media. All right, guys, let's get on to the podcast. Well, all right. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We really do appreciate having you on.
Oh, no. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite earlier than the week, and I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
Awesome. Yeah, so the first question we wanted to start off with is, what was your life like before Twitch and, the whole online social media life?
Okay, so I'm old, and I've been doing this for a long time because we started off as a podcast, and the GamerTag Radio is the name, and the podcast started off in 2005. So if you think about it, back then, there wasn't a YouTube, there wasn't a Twitch, there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't any of this stuff. So it was podcast wasn't even really a thing when it all started. So I was an original member of GamerTag Radio. I actually used to listen to it in 2005. Danny Pena was the founder, and Pete, those were my co-hosts. And I would just listen as a fan. And one day they went to Xbox up in Redmond to a gaming event. And I'm watching the video, and I'm like, "Do we curse on here? I don't want to curse."
Oh yeah.
Okay. I was like, "Holy shit! They're at Xbox. What is this?" So I was like, "I think I want to do this too." And I actually reached out to Danny, and he got back to me. This was in 2006 at this point, and he got back to me, and I started a podcast called Uncle Gamer Radio, and I did that from 2006 until 2011. And wow. Danny was a good friend of mine, and we'd collaborate on things together. All that every year at E3. I mean, we'd help each other out with coverage, all that stuff. So we're all of us were great friends just over this time period. Well, my co-host at the time, he left the show because he took a job with EA, and I decided at that point I'm going to retire. I don't want to do this anymore because I lost my co-host, but I was still friends with Danny and Pete. And in 2013, a game called BioShock Infinite came out, and I really loved that game. And they had me come on, and I started talking about it. And next thing you know, from there, the audience really liked it. They were like, "Oh, you should have him come on." And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this full time. I'm good. And I was like,
stop doing the whole podcast game.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll come on when I can, but no promises. And I've been a full-time host ever since. And that was April of 2013, something like that. And then, you mentioned Twitch. So we transitioned into doing streaming. We still do the podcast. We do the podcast twice a week, but we also do things on Twitch and YouTube. And we transitioned over to the video portion. God, what year was that? I guess we're in 2019 now. So it must have been 2017. We're at E3, and Twitch actually approached us about bringing our podcast onto Twitch and streaming it live. And they made us a partner. And we've been doing it on Twitch just simultaneously ever since. And it's been good. It's been good. It's definitely for me because I've really wanted to get more into video. So it's really pushed me into learning how to edit and put content out. And obviously, you do the things on Twitch. So, you guys can't see here in my office, but I got the whole setup ready to go. I got my key light on, all that stuff. So I'm good to go with streaming. Got my green screen off to the side over here. So that's a lot of fun to do. And like I said, I also do stuff on YouTube as well. So just that whole capture process, editing process, doing on-site video interviews, things like that. It's a lot of fun. Definitely really love doing the content creation of it. Just basically taking an idea from, I wonder if I can do this, to actually making it, and then you're publishing and putting it live. So it's pretty cool. That was a very long-winded answer to answer your question. So I hope that's
a great
okay.
answer.
Yeah, it was. So you said you started this in 2005, right?
GamerTag Radio started in 2005. I started in June of 2006, and it was terrible.
Okay. Terrible. Can you maybe elaborate on that?
It was terrible because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, number one. And it's like I cringe going back listening to those early podcasts. I mean, I probably used like a gaming mic like I have right here, and just the audio was horrible. I didn't know what I was doing editing, and it was just terrible. But again, I'm old, so I've had a long time to practice to get better.
So what did you do to get better? Like, I know that it's tough, kind of like we have had those cringe-worthy moments when we first started out. We kind of listen back at our audio and we're like, oh, wow. Those questions, like we were so nervous in general talking about stuff in the beginning. It would just we sounded off.
It really just comes down to repetition. I mean, that's all you can do. You just have to keep doing it. That's how you get better at it. You have to be your ultimate critic, which I'm sure both of you are. And you just like, even now I listen to myself, I'm like, oh, but you get better from it. You understand. All right. Cause I've noticed recently that I say fantastic a lot. I mean, a lot. I say it and I catch myself now. So I try to key in on things where I'm repeating words a lot and try to get them out of my vocabulary if I can. Obviously, your setup that you're doing to record. I mean, what is your equipment like? Like I'm using an XLR mic right now, and it provides the flexibility for me that this is also, I have a few of them. I also use the same exact XLR mic when we're at events as well, with a portable audio recorder where we're recording, an interview on site, has noise canceling, the whole thing, because that allows our audio to stay consistent, whether you're listening to us on the podcast, whether you're listening to us, we're at E3 or TwitchCon or whatever the hell, we're always going to sound the same because we're taking the same equipment wherever we go. And obviously, like I said, with the video stuff, I mean, you got to work on your lighting, things like that. What kind of software you're using on the PC? What am I using to edit? Things like that. So like between the three of us, we try to be very consistent. Like we all have the same exact microphones, things like that. So we know it's all going to sound the same, or video wise, it's all going to look the same as well. But going again, I know I'm long winded with what you're saying. So just again, the only way you can get better is to just keep doing it and to just be very critical of yourself and admit when you're not good at something and work on it to get better. And then your feedback, the feedback that you're going to get from your audience. I mean, they're going to tell you stuff that you're good at. They're going to tell you stuff you're not good at, and don't take that feedback personal. I mean, just take it as constructive criticism and just use it to get better. I mean, that's really all we do.
So speaking of audience, the next question I wanted to kind of go into is, so you had, your first podcast. What did you do to grow the audience? I mean, did you just throw your podcast out there and kind of just hope for the best, or like what strategies do you have going into that?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually did a podcasting, kind of a podcasting 101 for a group of high school kids out of Tampa, Florida. I did like a video conference session. It was like this big classroom of kids, and they were throwing all these questions at me, like podcasting. What do you do with this? What do you do with that? And that was one of the questions that came up. How do you grow your audience? And the thing that I told them, and I'm sure you guys know this too, when you put out episode 1, there's only going to be 3 people listening to it. You, your mom, and maybe your aunt. That's it. No one else is listening, right? So how do you grow that audience? What do you do? First of all, be consistent. Be very consistent with the episodes that you put out. Like we're at the point where we're putting out 2 episodes a week. To me, that's very aggressive. If you can put out 1 episode a week, and let's just say every Friday you put out an episode, it's 30 to 45 minutes long. You're consistent with that. You have it on iTunes, Google Play, just everywhere that you could possibly put it via an RSS feed, and get on social media. Don't be afraid to promote yourself, because that's the only way people are going to get to know you. And go to events. Go to a local Comic Con. If you get a chance, go to an E3, Twitch, PAX, whatever the case may be. The thing that I like to call is you got to get out there, shake hands, and kiss babies, right? Because if you don't, who the hell is going to know you? Yeah. And when I bring up the consistency thing, you can't let yourself get discouraged by the early numbers, because like I said, no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to be watching you. I mean, hell, we're on Twitch and we still don't have a huge audience on Twitch because it's only been 2 years. It takes time. You know what I mean? Unless you're a celebrity or you hobnob with the right people who are helping expose you to more people so they can actually then tune in and check you out. That's really the only way. It's kind of an organic process. Now, when you do start growing an audience, let's say you just get to the point where you got 100 people. engage with those 100 people that are consistently downloading your show every week, right? If you're engaging with them, and when I say engage, even if it's just through the show, not social media, let them know, hey, tell people about us, spread the word, because now those 100 people tell 3 other people. Let's say one of those 3 listen, they like it. Now they're hearing you saying spread the word, and it builds like that. You know what I mean? And again, I'm telling you, the biggest thing that you can do is to actually get out there and show your face. If you're out there showing your face, people know who you are and they can connect with you that way. That's how you're going to grow it, especially now, because there's so many podcasts out there. There's so many Twitch channels and YouTube channels and things like that. And I don't want to call it a competition. I just call it there's a lot of people out there that are really effing good. And you have to be on their level, or people are just simply, if they don't know you, they're not going to give you a chance. Yeah. But if you're good, people will find you eventually. That's just the way I look at it. But you can't do it because you're worrying about how many people are downloading you, or if you got a sponsor or things like that. That stuff comes with time if you stay consistent. Because I think there was a New York Times article that just came out a week or 2 ago, something like that, where I don't even know what the company was or what the business they were doing. They decided, we're going to start a podcast. And they put out their podcast thinking they were going to be an instant success. And they quit after 6 episodes because they weren't getting the downloads they thought they were going to get. And they didn't get a sponsor after 6 episodes. That's insanity. You're not going to grow. Again, unless you're Joe Rogan or someone like that you're coming in with a built-in audience that already knows you and trusts you. If I start a podcast tomorrow and no one and I have no history, who the hell am I? I'm nobody. Why am I going to listen to him? You know, that's what it really comes down to.
And then they also built their audience the original way too. Like, even if it wasn't through a podcast, like Joe Rogan, like they had to get themselves out there, get the, that spot or role or whatever, like celebrity, how they got to that point. They had to kind of like build up an audience themselves beforehand, right? Like they didn't land on just being nobody. I mean, sometimes they do, but and I think I use Joe because I love Joe. I listen to his podcast every week, but I use him as the template because to me he is the OG. He is the number one podcaster in the world right now with millions of downloads and listens every episode because he's been a comedian since the 80s. He did news radio. He hosts the freaking UFC and Fear Factor. He still does comedy specials. So when he did a podcast, I even remember it. I remember and I was like, wait, Joe Rogan's doing a podcast? Oh, I got to listen to that. You know what I'm saying? So like, you hear that because I trust Joe. And then it's like, all right, now I'm listening to him. Of course he has a cult following like that. But, me, just average guy that lives in California, nobody gives a crap who I am unless I give them a reason to want to actually listen to me. And I'm actually getting out there and exposing myself like, hey, just give our show a shot. If you listen to it, maybe you'll like what we have and then you'll stick around. I mean, people come and go over the years. Some people love us. Some people hate us. It's just a part of it. But, you have to stay consistent, though. That's the one thing. And like I said, GTR has been around since 2005. And there is a rare week in I can't do math right now. What is it? 14 years that we've actually missed an episode. It's very rare that we've not had some type of content out every week that people can expect. And even if we have missed for whatever reason, it's usually a good reason because we're traveling somewhere and we're getting even more great content to bring you the week after. Right. Like and I'm sure that you were very open with your audience about that too. You weren't just leaving them in the dark or anything about what's going on.
So you said that you did a lot of interviews during events, correct?
Yes, correct.
Do you have any interesting topics that you've covered with some people that you've interviewed during these events?
Off the top of my head, we talked to Phil Spencer, head of Xbox. We interviewed him at E3. God, this was a while back now, 2014, 2015, up in there. Just as an example, I mean, he's the head guy. We talked to Aaron Greenberg like every year from Xbox at E3. I'm actually slated to talk to Aaron at Gamescom this year as well. And it's good to be able to talk to like the leaders of obviously Xbox is one of the big 3 and be able to ask them the questions that we want to ask and get feedback from them. Because I bring up Phil Spencer as an example. This was 2014 because this was a year after the 2013 debacle of launching Xbox One. Phil Spencer took over and then obviously they decoupled. They were starting to decouple Kinect from the console and starting the changes that we're now seeing come to fruition. And I remember I asked him a question about, because I actually like the original vision of what they were attempting to do in 2013 for the Xbox. The messaging was so piss poor that no one was going to accept it, right? But there were things in there that I'm like, I like that. One of them was the family sharing plan. I thought that was great. You're gonna be able to hit the family sharing with digital games, share them out to your friends, all that stuff. So I remember I asked him about that. And he was talking about them trying to bring some form of that back and all that. And I just remember it got picked up by all the big media sites at the time. And that was really huge. I want to say, and I could be off, I might be off on this, but I think that episode alone got close to 1 million for us, something ridiculous. Because again, everyone was listening to it, but we got a huge exposure off of something like that. But I mean, we've had so many different interviews over the years with just, just people in the industry, big developers, things like that. I know Danny, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, and we're taping this on Sunday, Peter Moore is going to be on. And I remember Peter Moore, he was like, for Sega, launched the Dreamcast, and obviously he was with Xbox back when, launched the 360. He was a huge guy for that. So he's coming on with Danny, and they're just kind of talk about, because, we're at the 20-year anniversary for Sega Dreamcast coming up here next month, and they're going to just talk about his time with Sega, how he got the job, and then his history with Xbox, Red Ring of Death, all that stuff. So, I mean, those are the cool ones that, we get to do. And it's great because the way I take any interview that I do is it's just a conversation. We're just talking. I mean, I don't try to be a robot. Okay, tell me about how many frames per second you're going to do now, because that's
right. Coming in with
I ask the question, and I always say I'm very selfish when I do an interview because I'm asking what I want to know. I don't ask what you want to know. I want to know. So those are the questions that I'm going to ask, because I'm usually when we do an interview, I'm highly invested into it, genuinely interested about the topic. So I'm going to talk about the stuff that I want to know, and hopefully that translates to the audience as well. And so far it's worked out pretty well. But I mean, that's just the way I approach interviews and the way that I personally do it. I will say one thing that I am a stickler on is preparation. So if I do, like I just did one for the Outer Worlds. I went to a preview event a couple of weeks ago, and we just put that content out, interview, talk about that game. So I knew way in advance we were going to this event. So I researched everything I could about the Outer Worlds ahead of time, had some notes already ready to go. We got hands-on time with it. So as I'm playing, I'm taking notes about certain things like, oh, this will be a good question. Oh, that'll be a good question. So when I'm actually talking to the person in question, I mean, I'm not, again, just reading it word for word, but I have a nice outline of things that I want to make sure I hit while I'm talking to that person, so that there's some preparation there. Sometimes just freelancing in a conversation is great, but I'd like to at least have a baseline of things that I want to talk about. And, like you guys mentioned, or tangent away if tangent works, but, I want to make sure that there's key topics that I for sure hit in said interview if time allows.
Podcast or the interview that you can feel like that was a good episode. That was something
exactly
that meaty episode that I got everything I wanted out of it.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you something I absolutely hate, and I'm very vocal about this because I hated it. I went to the Call of Duty. I went to the Call of Duty Modern Warfare event earlier this week here in LA, and for multiplayer. So I played the multiplayer, is good. And I remember again getting my notes. Where is it? I probably can show you on camera. I don't even know where it is. I put it up, but I got all my notes. I'm ready to go. I had already told me that I had an interview scheduled for a certain time. Again, my assumption, I'm doing it one-on-one, right? So all prepped up. I get to the place. Oh, be on time to wherever you got to go. My philosophy on that is if you're not 15 minutes early, then you're 15 minutes late to wherever you got to go. That's just me though. I'm a weirdo, but I'm there on time, ready to go for the interview. And I remember the PR person again. I'm there thinking, all right, time, walk in. Thus, right before we walk in, oh yeah, Parris, this is going to be our group interview with 3 other people. Oh. Ugh. I was like, wait, what? It was like one of those things where it was so last second. I just went with it, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I refused to actually listen to the interview. I just gave it to Danny. I was like, just put it out. I'm never listening to this. And it was just one of those cringy things for me where the 2 people we interviewed, one of them clearly didn't want to be there. Number one. So strike 1, strike 2. the PR person in the room with us is telling us, the four of us, you can only ask one question at a time and you got to go around in order.
Oh,
Strike two and then strike three, because look, I'm aggressive by nature when it comes to that. So my one question was really 5 in one. And I could tell the other guys were super annoyed with me. And I was like, strike three. I just mentally tapped out. I was like, I hate this. I don't even care what they're saying anymore. I'm never doing a group interview again. Because I used to do them early on, way back in the day. But I mean, I'm to the point now, if I'm going to sit down with a dev, I want to sit down with a dev one-on-one and I want to talk about the game. Again, I want to ask the questions that I want to ask. I don't give a crap about your frames per second or what resolution you're going to hit or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what's going to make this game fun for me. I mean, seriously, because I feel like if you make the interview personal for yourself, that's how the person listening to the podcast or watching the video is thinking as well. Well, what is in it for me? No, they only care about stats if it's relevant to them.
Right.
Right. So
GameSpot. I think in your position, maybe if you had known it was going to be a group interview from the start, like get-go.
I would have said no.
Yeah, like that would have been a little bit easier for you, you know? Like you'd have been like, okay, I'm not going. Like,
yeah, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to do this. I would have, if I would have known ahead of time, I would have said I prefer one-on-one. And if they would have said, well, we can't do that due to time, I was like, well, thanks, but no thanks. I don't need to interview this person. I've already played the game. I can just give my own thoughts on the game, throw my gameplay footage up on YouTube and call it a day, because that's exactly what I did. Like the interview, I didn't even put it on YouTube. It's only on the podcast because I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's also just knowing where you excel. You're like, I excel on these one-on-one interviews, so I'm going to apply that when I can, and I'm not going to, like, I guess it's also kind of like content. You're like, I want to put out quality content every time. I know what I'm good at. I can, and what will be good quality content. So I'm not going to, like you said, I guess you're like, you even said so. You're trying to make sure your audio quality and everything is good. And you're like, it just, I don't know. Do you have any regrets that it's still like that you had to do that? Or is it just like, it's content.
It's content. It's someone will get something out of it. And it's just one of those things. Like, I put it out, I prefaced that I wasn't necessarily a fan of it, but I was like, hey, listen to it. Maybe you'll get something out of it. And I've not gotten any negative feedback on it. So I guess it was
now
okay.
Are going to be like, I don't know if they knew this before, but they're probably going to listen to it now and be like, oh, I can hear that in his voice where he's trying to like every question out of
They know me. They know me. It's like, oh, he's annoyed. He's annoyed by this. He doesn't like it. You know, it's just one of those things.
There's a little bit more to listen to in that episode now than just the actual interview itself.
Yeah.
So what do you do in those situations when you know you're going into, an interview and that person does not want to be there? And so they have really short answers. I mean, what do you do in that situation?
I have the perfect one for you. So we're at Red Storm back in December. It was for the Division 2. It was multiplayer. It was for the multiplayer and the Dark Zone stuff, right? The preview. Yeah. But we had talked to Ubisoft PR and we had this great idea. Hey, while we're there, let's interview the founder of Red Storm, because this is the Tom Clancy studio, man. There's so much legacy there with just Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon and all that. So PR thought, great idea. Let's do it. We did it on camera. So we got a bunch of people that have been at Red Storm for like 20 plus years to come on, right? It was great. We talked to the founder, all that, just great stories, all that. One guy, and I think he was like the writer, did not want to be there. And it's one of those things where you'll ask a leading question expecting, to get, 30-second to a minute response, something like that. And it was one of those, yes, no, yep. And me, I'm like, okay, he don't want to be here.
It wasn't even a yes or no question. Like
eject. I think we talked to that dude for like 3 minutes and I was like, just hit the eject button and get out, because he doesn't want to talk to us. It's very clear. He doesn't want to be here. So don't force something. I mean, if the person doesn't want to talk, you're not going to get anything relevant out of it. Just rack it up to it is what it is. I had that also happen. And God, where was this at? This was Assassin's Creed Unity. Yeah, we're in London. It was Unity. And whatever.
There's a lot of Assassin's Creed games. So
yeah,
honestly,
I don't know.
It was one of them.
It's when I was in London. Whatever Assassin's Creed was in London, the ones with the twins. But anyways, I was talking to, she was a writer as well, I think, or with lore or something like that. And her thing, it wasn't so much that she want to be there. She just would not elaborate on anything. Everything quick. Yes, no, yep. I was like, uh-oh, I'm not getting anything out of this. Okay, eject. All right, thank you. We're good. You know, it's one of those things.
Right, and it feels awkward
you just got to roll with it. Yeah,
because you're like, I don't want to make this obvious, because like obviously they're either uncomfortable to be there, like maybe they're just a writer. Like, this is all I really wanted to do is write, create the lore, and go home. Like,
yeah. So actually, I have a great example of this, and this actually helped me in the long run. So again, I like to talk. I apologize. So I'll tell this story.
Fine.
2015. Yeah, this was Halo: The Master Chief Collection. We were at Xbox at the Xbox booth, or like their meeting rooms or whatever, and we sat in a presentation for Halo: The Master Chief Collection, and it was Bonnie Ross. She's like the head of 343, right? And we're sitting in there. It's great. Okay, yeah, this was cool. It's cool info. And Danny turns to me and he goes, "Should we see if we can interview Bonnie?" I look at him. Okay, sounds good to me. Why not? Hit her up. And sure enough, he asked her, "Hey," like I'm standing right there next to him. Bonnie comes over. He's like, "Hey, Bonnie, you got a few minutes, do an interview?" She's like, "Absolutely." So she's sitting there ready to go. He turns to me and goes, "Parris, my voice, I can't." Gives me the mic. I'm on the spot. And like I told you before, I'm one of those, I like to be prepped and ready to go for things. And I was not expecting that. So it really caught me off guard. I didn't know what the hell to say, because I feel like she just said the stuff in the presentation. Yeah. This is all I have to go. I haven't processed it yet. So the reason I bring this up is, for me, probably the worst interview I've ever done in my head, because I'll never listen to it ever. I've never listened to it. I just remember I was just bead of sweat going down my head. I was panicking, and I felt like I was talking 10,000 miles a minute, and I just wanted to eject and get out of there. Right. So it was horrible for me. People have listened to it and said it's fine. I'll never know, because I'll never listen to it. But the moral of the story is this. So exactly a year later, we're at the Xbox, whatever, like E3 media showcase party thing they do. So now they've unveiled Halo 5, and we're there, and Bonnie Ross and Kiki Wolf-Kill are there from 343. And I don't know if you know Michael Pachter. Michael Pachter was there, because that was the thing. We know Michael Pachter forever. So he sees us. "Hey guys, come over. Da, da, da. Oh, with Bonnie Kiki's," and we're like talking, and we're all talking, having a good time. So I took that as the opportunity. I was like, "Well, Bonnie, I have to tell you this. You may not remember this. A year ago, I spoke to you. For me, I thought it was such a horrible experience, because I was nervous. Danny put me on the spot and the whole thing." And she said the most amazing thing to me. And it has really helped me so much just moving forward from that. She goes, "Wow, I did not know that, because normally when I have to talk to someone in an interview, I'm so nervous and so worried that I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm always scared when I have to do an interview." And it was like a freaking light switch went off in my head. It's like, holy shit. She's just a person like me. She's just a normal person. She's just people. So from that point forward, I've always looked at it as, they're just people too. And because they're just people too. They're just doing their job. She just happens to be working on this amazing game in the head of the studio. But at the end of the day, she's just a person. They get nervous just like we do. They get the whole thing. So I would say since that point, I'm never afraid to go do an interview anymore, because it doesn't matter. They're
kind of funny where she's like afraid of what question you're going to ask. And you're like, "But I don't know what question I want to ask." So you're like playing this battle like no one knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. So that actually has really helped me since, like I said, that was 2015. And just since then, yeah, man. I mean, any interview I have to do, people I talk to in person, whatever, there's never that nervousness anymore, because, okay, either it's going to go great or it's not. It is what it is. Just do your best, and that's all you can do, Yeah.
So from interviewing all these high-ranking individuals in the gaming world, I'm assuming you've got some amazing advice. I mean, that was actually really not really much advice, but I mean, it kind of gives you an idea that, hey, everyone is human, and I'm interviewing people, so they're going to be just as nervous as I am. But has anyone ever give you really good advice that you've taken away and really reflected on that and really acted upon that advice?
Oh man, now you're really taking me back. So there is a really awesome PR person that I still know to this day that told me, God, this is probably 10 years ago, that really broke down how PR works and how you get access to things and what you need to do when you're at events and just all that. And then I get frustrated, just really kind of just gave me this great advice on how to handle being, and at that time, being a content creator, being a podcaster, and those rules still hold true to this very day. And it really just comes down to this. You can only control what you can control. And by saying that is, all you can do is put out your show, give your best effort, interview the people that you get access to. Don't get frustrated when you're denied for something because, hey, maybe your show does not have the numbers that justify getting the head of a studio to come in. That's just the reality of it. That's just business. It's about, what is my content going to do to help that company spread the word about their game? Because that's what PR is. It's marketing, right? So good or bad, me talking about their game, what does that do for them? So that dictates how big is my audience? Who am I influencing with what I have to say or what I'm reviewing or whatever? You know what I mean? So you have to go in and understand that none of this stuff is personal. I mean, it's really, I shouldn't say that. Maybe some things are personal, but overall, it's not personal. Unless you got a personal relationship with them or you've just been a complete asshat at some point, it's never personal. It's just a thing of, some things justify you getting access to depending on who you are. And that's just the reality of it. And you have to accept it and be okay with it. For us, I feel like we've really busted our ass to get to where we are. And we've really worked on those relationships because that's really what it comes down to in this industry. It's all about who you know. Who knows you? They know, that all that thing. Do they trust you with their content? And I think we've worked very hard to establish those type of relationships over the years, and they don't come quickly and they don't come easy. It takes time. And that's, just the best advice that I get is to be patient and to understand the business side of how all this stuff works. Because once you do, you understand how it goes, and you could just go from there and, be very thankful and grateful for the things that you do get and understand where you're denied for other things. I think that's the simplest way to say it.
Do you mostly find yourself playing Xbox, PlayStation, or PC? Like, what kind of gamer are you? Console, PC gamer?
Yeah, I am mostly a PC gamer these days. Xbox and I, let me tell this story really quick. I am very grateful and thankful for Xbox helping to put us in the position, and even me more specifically in the position that I am today. Because back in those early days, Xbox was a huge champion of smaller content creators, community stuff, and all that. And they really put me in front of people and did things to enable me, Dan, all of us, to get us the access that we needed to various things. But, like after 2013 and even right now, there's just not a lot on Xbox that excites me. Like I'll highlight Halo 5 as an example. Was so excited for that game. The game was a disaster. Gears 4 is okay, but even Gears 5 coming out right now, I'm not very excited about. Xbox right now doesn't have a lot of exclusive content that excites you. Right. No, it doesn't. And that's just the reality of it, which, by the way, Xbox is very truly respects my opinion, because I guess I'll tangent this for just a second. You can be critical of something that you love, right? And I've been very critical of Xbox over the years, but I do it in a respectful way. And that goes a long way. That's, like I said, that's why I'm going to Gamescom, and I got a bunch of interviews with Xbox there, and I'm sitting down with the head of marketing, all that stuff, because despite me being very critical, it's fair criticism, and it's criticism that even Phil Spencer has gone on stage and talked about over the years as well. So I'm not saying anything crazy or being a troll or anything like that. But the point, going back to the original thing, I play a lot of PC lately. I also play on PlayStation for they've got an amazing exclusive lineup, the past few years. I play a lot of Destiny on PlayStation 4, but I've been transitioning that over to the PC as well. But I'm hopeful for what Xbox will be going into the next generation with Scarlet. I absolutely love the fact that they're turning Xbox, instead of being hardware, into a service with things like Game Pass. All their games are going to be on PC, which brings up kind of the conundrum for me. Do I even need the next console? they're all going to be on PC. I don't really need to get a console. Maybe I'll wind up getting it for my kids, but I don't necessarily see, like, I didn't have an Xbox for the longest. I mean, full disclosure, Microsoft gave me my first Xbox One at launch. And then they also sent me an Xbox One X earlier this year. So I have one, but I don't use it a lot. But that's okay. I'm very upfront about that. And like I said, I will play Microsoft games online, on my PC, I should say, but not necessarily on the console.
Yeah. So you work a lot with Xbox, you said, and by you giving your criticism to them, how do you make sure that it's not, I guess, like really harsh opinion and don't offend Xbox?
Because you can be respectful and tell the truth. Again, I'll take you back to the 2014 thing with Phil Spencer. I told him straight up to his face. I was like, to me, Kinect was a mistake. I thought that from day one. I was like, hey, why are you forcing this? Why are you charging $500 for this console and forcing this $100 premium on me with this camera that no one's going to use? Because I knew it going in. And obviously Sony came in $100 less. Guess what? No camera. So it just by appearance looked like Xbox was forcing you to pay $100 more for that camera that no one wanted. So yeah, I told him that. And like I said, that they were in the process then of trying to decouple it and do things like that. But he appreciated that honest feedback to it. Like I said, we talk to Aaron Greenberg all the time and other people at Xbox, and we're all just honest. You don't have to love everything. And like I said, I think they appreciate when you don't love something, because that gives them the opportunity to try and improve the thing that you don't like. You know what I mean? So in a weird way, this sounds kind of silly, but in a weird way, it's better to be critical than to just shower admiration on everything. Like, I'll give you another example. Like I mentioned, Destiny. I've been a Destiny player from day freaking one of the alpha to this very day. I was playing Crucible earlier, and I've had, that game has been a roller coaster the entire time. It's given me some of the most amazing moments I've ever had in gaming, but there's also been some really dumb effing decisions that they've made, whether it be their own fault, Activision, or whatever the case may be. So I even remember earlier this year, I was pretty critical of them on social media and everything. And, a couple of people from Bungie reached out to me and, was asking me why. I gave my opinion. And then even at E3 this year, I met up with them and, we're openly talking about, the things that I did like, because they're asking me, like, I don't know if you guys play Destiny or not, but the Menagerie that came out, because I was really critical of the way that they've been raid with the whole world's first thing. I go, you've been doing it in a way that's not including everyone. You've really made it more about the streamers than you've made it about a world's first for anyone that wants to play. Yeah. And I'm saying this as a dude who will get on their day one and play and take the time off and all that, because I'm trying to look at the big picture of it. And it's so funny, like I said, Deej was even saying to me, like, well, what did I think of Menagerie? Because he kept saying to me, he was like, I think we're going to have something that you'll like. And it wound up being Menagerie, the 6-player thing. And I go, Menagerie's great. I'm glad that you're doing a 6 thing that isn't, does matchmaking, isn't forcing people to have to go outside the game to do LFG, all that kind of stuff. But it still doesn't solve the world's first thing with the raid, which they did part of it, this Crown of Sorrow, where they added in the thing where they're basically capping the power level on in basically the day one, when people are doing world's first. And then the second part of it, they're actually going to do when Shadowkeep comes out, they're putting the raid on Saturday. That's all you can ask. If everyone has equal footing at the starting line, you put it on a day that people don't have to take time off from work. And it's just, it allows more inclusion. It makes the community feel more a part of what you're doing. That's all you can ask, right? Can't complain at that point. So I'm actually very happy to see what they're doing. But I bring that up again, just going back to what you're saying. Yeah, I'm actually a very pretty vocal person about things that I like and I don't like. But the things that I love, I will hold that flag and wave it from side to side for the things that I love. Because like The Witcher 3, as an example, it's the greatest game of this generation. I will sing that to the rooftops all day. But it's still not a perfect game. And I'll point out the things that I don't like about it. But then at the same time, like I said, I'll bring up Destiny. I love Destiny. Love it. Absolutely love that. Love all the amazing things that it's done, but I'll be very quick to say what I don't like about it as well. And I think there's a respect there that you can do both. you can say, hey, you're just being honest. You're like, here's the things I love, here's the things I don't love, and then provide constructive feedback on what you think they could do to improve
it shows you
things
as a
that you
true
don't like.
fan. Also, it's like you're not just blindly saying something that like sounds like you read a forum or something. You're like, oh, he just read that from a forum or something. Like it's not his own opinion. Like you can show that your own opinion. Also, I'm kind of curious of what you think of the Witcher live adaptation. That's coming.
I'm excited for it. I'm actually very excited for it. I mean, it's not using any of the game stuff at all. This is strictly coming from the book. So I've not read the books, but I'm aware of some of the changes. So you can clearly see some of the changes when you watch the trailer footage. But I mean, I remember seeing the test footage of Henry Cavill as Geralt, and I was like, ooh, this doesn't look good. But I mean, hey, don't judge a book by its cover, until you get the final product. And I mean, trailer looked really good. Pretty excited for it.
Do you see any game that you'd actually want to be made into some kind of series other than The Witcher?
That's a good question.
That was good stuff. I mean, The Witcher, I didn't see that one coming. I was super pumped when they said they were announcing that. The trailer came out. Oh man.
I mean, off the top of my head, and I know I'm going to be stuff. I think Horizon Zero Dawn, that world would be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
The Last of Us, obviously, that world would be interesting to see. But then I worry about it being too much like The Walking Dead potentially.
Yeah.
I think Mass Effect would be amazing as a series. I think there's so much sci-fi potential there of just that universe that BioWare created.
That's good.
And then, I mean, they're doing Halo. I mean, I would love to see that fleshed out as well. I mean, there's a lot. There's definitely a lot of them out there. I'd be very curious to see. I do think this Division one, and I'm a fan of the Division. I love the Division. I don't necessarily need a movie show or whatever the hell they're doing on Netflix for that.
Something with that, yeah. But no, The Last of Us 2. Oh man, The Last of Us. I have played it through already, and I'm going. Actually, I'm still like playing it. Like I think this is the fourth time I played it. I don't know. I just bought my PS4 because a while back, my friend introduced me to The Last of Us, probably like a couple years back. I was hooked, and I was like, dude, I kept going over his house just to play that game, and I beat it at his house, like on his PS4. So then, like, I actually, I think it was actually PS3 at the time. I don't remember. Anyway, because they remastered it for PS4.
Yep.
But anyway, I bought the PS4 not too long ago, and I played it already twice. I beat it twice. Like, I love that game. Such a beautiful game. It's so well done. But man, is there any?
I agree, and it's funny with that. When it originally came out, I hated the actual gameplay of it. I just did not like how it controlled.
Really?
I shouldn't say the gameplay. I should say the controls. I did not like the controls originally, and they clearly got tweaked by the time we got to the PS4, in my opinion, because I forced myself to play because I love the story that much. Right? I forced myself to play it through. And really enjoyed the story. It's very compelling. And then I remember I played the remaster, and it just played a lot better the second time through on PS4. But yeah, that's a great example of, it just had such a compelling world and story that control scheme be damned. I gotta finish it. I have to play it. I have to know how this ends. And that's to me, the sign of a great game, that even if it's not 100% perfect, there's something about it that just, you gotta get to the end. You have to finish it,
Yeah. The intro scene, man, it made me so sad. And if a game can do that and suck me in that well in the beginning of the part of the game, like I'm sold 100% from the very beginning.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I want to bring it back just a little bit to, kind of your early days in the podcasting world. Kind of like, what was it like when you were trying to get to those bigger guests, Like, obviously the, road isn't, a very direct one. You kind of have to find your way, work up to those guests and stuff. What was it like trying to, find those guests, putting your
it was
out there?
You got to hustle, man. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You got to hustle and, send emails to people and introduce yourself and hope they respond. 90% of the time they don't. And like I said, you go to these events and you get that face-to-face thing going, helps a lot as well. Just grinding. Like I literally hustled myself into going to Infinity Ward back in 2007 before they showed Modern Warfare. because I heard through the grapevine they were doing a community event for the next Call of Duty. And I remember I just hustled, started talking to different people, wound up finding Robert Bowling's email address. He was a community manager at the time. And I emailed him and introduced myself and said what we do. And, oh, I'm already in LA. I would love to go, and I wound up going. And the rest was history from there. That's actually how I met Activision PR, was that grind, being able to do that. And it was so funny. The Activision PR person that was at that event, that I met back then, this was, I don't know, May, June of 2007, at this Call of Duty event, because I've known him the entire time these years. We were talking, and I was like, seeing you here today for this game makes me realize how old I'm getting. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I met you 12 years ago at the first Modern Warfare. And he's like, oh my God, we're getting old. It's just one of those things. But again, that's establishing those relationships. And that is literally my oldest PR relationship is him. Is this person at Activision. We've known each other that long. It's just amazing. Just over the years, all different stuff.
Type of, I guess, what we say, like a always hustling. Like, where did that come from? Because it seems like, I don't know, kind of like wonder, like, hey, I want to be like that. But it seems like you had that from.
Oh, that's my mom, man. I get that from my mom instilled that into me, at a very young age. But Danny's like that as well. My co-host, he's a hustler as well. So the stories him and I could tell of just hustling our way into events and parties that we had no business being in at the time.
Oh man, do tell, please.
Like here's a funny one. Funny one is, God, I don't remember the year now. Was this 08? Whatever year was Gears of War 2. So this was before Gears of War 2 came out. So this was probably 08, I think. But anyways, we knew that Microsoft was doing a Gears of War party for like the press and celebrities and all this stuff. We were not invited, but we knew about it. So we basically hustled our way. Matter of fact, Aaron Greenberg, we pinged Aaron Greenberg. He told us where it was, but we weren't invited, but he slipped and told us where it was. So we hatched the plan. We're like, we're just going to go. We're just going to go and show up, act like we're supposed to be there. So sure enough, we roll up. They're doing the check-in. And one of the girl that was doing the check-in, she was PR for Xbox, and she knew us. And I remember she was like, your name's not on the list. We're like, yeah, we talked to Aaron and he told us we were supposed to come here. And she gave us one of those, you're full of shit kind of looks like, but
dropping too.
Go ahead anyways. So we got into that event. And I remember at the time we met the entire, the voice cast for Gears of War was there. Cliffy B at the time was there. There's other like celebrity stuff like that. And I remember we could probably Google the stuff and find it now, but John DiMaggio, Marcus Phoenix is there. And obviously this is in the height of Futurama and all this stuff is going on. And it's still one of the coolest things that's ever happened. So he's drunk, right, at this thing. And we're talking to him and he does drunk bender. I'm telling you right now, it's the funniest shit ever. I was howling because the dude is just
I would have been on the ground.
And he was just doing bender and just saying crazy stuff. And it was just the funniest thing ever. But and then what's his face? Coltrane. I forget his real name now, but he did Office, Linebacker, all that stuff. Dude, we're talking to him, nicest guy. He was just talking about his days in the NFL and college football, all that stuff. And Carlos Ferreira, Dom, really, really nice guy. I've had a chance to talk to him over the years as well. Got to meet him, talk to him, just all that stuff. So that was a time of something we had no business being at. And I even remember we saw some other PR people in there and they're like, how did you get in here? It was like one of those things, right? But then at that point you're in, no one cares. But it was one of those things where we hustled, we got ourselves in. And again, that's what I'm saying. You put the face to the name. So it's like now our face, we're being seen at these various events and things like that. So then when it comes around later, I remember that guy kind of thing. And like I said, I'm not advocating to do a bunch of shady, sneaky stuff. But look, if the opportunity's there, the opportunity's there. You got to try. Because what's the worst? They're going to say no, right? That's the worst that's going to happen. That's it. So, we've done the things that we've had to do.
What did you learn from this podcast? Just name dropping people and sneaking into parties is what.
There you go. That's it. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. On that point, on advice, we usually like to close out our episodes with just asking for what is the one piece of advice that you would give to. I mean, in this case, kind of podcasters and people who are getting into social media. What's the one piece of advice that you'd give them besides what we just talked about?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of just recapping what I said earlier in the show, in that be consistent with your work. Always work to get better at your craft, at whatever you're doing, be it a podcast, be it a streamer, doing video on YouTube. It doesn't matter. Just try to be the best at whatever you do. Stay consistent with it and have patience. I mean, that's really the biggest thing, man. If you're consistent and you can be patient and not let yourself get discouraged because you're not the instant success that you think you should be, right away, you'll be fine. Because my philosophy has always been that if you're good, people will eventually find you, and just be honest with yourself. I mean, be your worst critic when it comes to putting out content. Watch it, listen to it, figure out what you're doing right, figure out what you're doing wrong, listen to constructive feedback. You know what I mean? That's really all you can do. But at the end of the day, do this because you love it, right? Do it because it's fun. Don't do it because you think you're going to be ninja and get $50 million from Mixer, because that ain't happening. It's not. You know what I mean? Do it because you love it. And if along the way you get some cool stuff, great. If you don't, but you still love and are proud of the content that you're putting out, you're winning anyways. That's just how I look at it.
That's great advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We truly appreciate having you on.
Oh, no. Thank you. It's a lot of fun. I like I told you guys, offline, I like to talk a lot. So I hope I didn't talk too much while I was out here.
Not enough.
But, it's always fun because, like I said, I've been doing this for so long, and, it's still fun. And that's why I keep doing it. If it wasn't fun, and if, I don't know if you could hear my wife or my kids earlier. If I didn't have all the support of my wife, being able to do this, I would have stopped long.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again. And we really appreciate having you on. You have yourself a wonderful night.
All right. You too. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rad Gaming Podcast.
Yes, this is the last podcast we're going to do for a little bit. Jemshi and I are actually going to go on vacation, separate times, separate places. But we will be back in sometime in September. Is that correct, Jemshi?
Right. So make sure to follow us on Twitter for updates when we're back. And as always, stay rad, comrades.